Hello everybody, good afternoon. My name is Professor Rich, and today we're talking about feel-good English, vocabulary on the subject of being happy, more or less. So there was a stream I did last year, I think, which was about something called SAD. So SAD, or SAD, is seasonal affective disorder. And that means in the winter, people often get sad or depressed. And I found it quite useful to talk about that and talk about the ways that you can be happier in winter. And I thought it was quite a positive class to have. And also, I think people kind of got something from that class because there was lots of interesting comments about it. So we're doing something similar this time. We're talking about well-being and happiness. I'm someone who has suffered from depression. I know what depression's like. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. And the common solution for depression is don't talk to me about it. Go over there, speak to the doctor, and he'll give you some pills. Okay, that's one option. But what other options have we got? Let's start by looking at some vocabulary. So you can see the pictures. All of these pictures are related to happiness or well-being. I want you to type the words for these things into the chat. So how do you say these things in English? What do you think these things are? How can these things make you feel better? And what am I talking about with these things? Type your answers in the chat. The chat is, if you're on PC, it's over there. And if you are on mobile devices, it's down there. Hello, everybody. Hello, Yasin. Hello, Sonia. Nice to have you with us. Hello, Ashley Chen. Excuse me. Hello, Daisy. How are you doing? Hello, Pallavi. Pallavi did the homework. Just thought I'd let you all know. I have homework from Pallavi. Hi, Julia. Vladimir. Manuel Gordillo. Manuel, did you do the homework from last week? Because I am going to check the homework today, but I don't think I got anything from you. Hello, Sonia. Hello, Mina. Hello, Anawat. Hello, Kashata. And hello, Maria del Carmen. So we've got a bunch of things on the screen relating to feeling good, things that can make you feel better. And not just things that make you feel better in the moment, but things that make you feel better overall. Let's have a look at the results of our poll here today. So how often do you feel down? Yes, the majority of people say sometimes. Some people say often. And then a very small minority say never. I'm super happy. With 19 votes, 5%, that means one person. There's one person in the chat who's super happy all the time. Well done. So we've got some interesting guesses here in the chat. We took some people saying restful sleep. Restful sleep. That is like productive sleep. So not just sleeping, not just being asleep, but being asleep and it being restful, meaning that you wake up feeling rejuvenated. You feel rejuvenated when you wake up. And Daisy's put exercise like a maniac, D. I don't think it's not exercise like a maniac. Actually, for D, what I thought was regular exercise. Just regular exercise. You see, I put the watch there to represent the idea of it being regular exercise. I do like restful sleep. I'm going to use that one. Thank you, Daisy. And B, some people put animals, pets, actually. So pets, having pets is related to well-being. Ginger. Gingy. He is there. Music. I'm just going to put music because actually I don't think it has to be a specific type of music. It doesn't have to be uplifting music. It can just be any music. This one is a healthy diet. So we don't want too much sugar. And we certainly don't want too many carbohydrates. And then this one. What do you think this one is? F. What have you guys put for that? F. Traveling and self-exploring, says Ashley Chen. Interesting. Traveling to a new place from Daisy as well. So it's actually spending time in nature. So it's this idea of being in nature. The field, the mountain, the forest, something like that. This idea of being in nature. And, you know, something that helps me sometimes is looking at the sky when the sky is blue and when the sky is bright. Actually, when the sky is dark, it's interesting too, but the main thing, looking at the sky when the sun's out, I found that can be really, just try that for 5 minutes. Put a timer on. Put a timer, 5 minutes, and go look at the sky for 5 minutes and see how you feel after 5 minutes of looking at the sky. And really try to take in the colours of the sky. Okay, I'm starting to sound like a hippie. So here's the plan for today. We're going to talk about beating depression. We're going to look at some well-being vocabulary. We've done it. We're going to look at some stories about being happy. We're going to look at some modal verbs. We're going to practice giving advice. And then I'm going to have a look at your homework from last week. And then finally, we've got time for questions. So that's the plan for today. Manuel says, Rich, you need to develop about why this picture, why sleeping, pets, music, exercise, food, and be a best method from scratch. What do you mean what do I need to develop about the picture, Manuel? When I say why. Manjula says, Rich, did you get my email? Let's have a look. I don't seem to have an email, Manjula. I think maybe you sent it to the wrong person. So actually, best way is if you go onto our Discord, which Daisy's just said, yeah. If you send me a message on Discord, that's the best way to submit the homework. I don't have an email from you anyway. So I think maybe you sent it to the wrong address. Be careful because my address, Professor Rich, it's spelled in the Spanish way, Professor. Professor being teacher in Spanish. Right, so it's Professor Rich, not Professor Rich in English. All right. So we're going to start off today with stories. Some stories about how some people beat depression. I want you to listen to the story and match the information. Now, often I do this and I start off fast and go slow. But today, due to popular demand, I will start slow and go fast. So, we're going to start with John. And I'm going to read John's script. Okay? Are we ready? John, I want you to listen. I want you to match the information. So which of these things do you hear John say? Stop eating junk food, fish oil, therapy, vitamin D, vitamin B, breathing, herbal teas, going outside, and stop drinking alcohol. Hello everyone, I'm John. For years I struggled with depression. Finally, I found relief by combining therapy with supplements. My therapist recommended vitamin B complex tablets. Vitamin B is known to improve mood and energy. I take 1 pill every morning. Along with that, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, help me manage negative thoughts. So, my advice, consult a healthcare professional and consider supplements. So type what you heard in the chat. CBT, says Ashley Chen. Does anyone know what that is, CBT? Therapy, Vit B, that's right. So we got vitamin B, but then we have therapy. So, and as Ashley Chen said, the specific therapy that we heard about was CBT. So CBT stands for cognitive. Cognitive means of your mind. Cognition. Cognition is thinking. Cognitive of the mind. B, behavioral. So mind, behavior. Behavior is actions that you do regularly. Right? So we got the mind, actions you do regularly, therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. It became very popular in the late 90s and early 2000s. And it's a type of therapy that's very popular now. In some ways, it's more popular than psychotherapy. Psychotherapy was the old therapy for depression that people used a lot. These days, people really like CBT. For dementia patients, I don't know if CBT is used for dementia. CBT used for dementia? There's some research about whether it can help people with dementia. But CBT is mainly for people with negative thoughts and depression and anxiety. It's a behavioral therapy. Okay, let's move on then. We're going to move on now to Carlos. All right, are we ready? I am Carlos, 25-year-old musician from Brazil. Okay, Carlos. I'll go a bit faster this time. Hey friends, I'm Carlos. I was in a dark place, and then I discovered mindfulness and omega-3 fish oil. Omega-3 fish oil is found in fish, and they say it helps brain function. After I started to take it, I felt a little bit more balanced emotionally. Also, mindfulness meditation made me aware of the present moment, focusing on my breathing, even for just 10 minutes a day. It brought clarity. These two things combined helped lift my spirits. So, Carlos, We got the Carlos with the fish oil. And focus on breathing, breathing. Also, meditation was mentioned. That's the bonus one. Well done for that. A specific type of meditation called mindfulness meditation, which is very similar to Vipassana, which is traditional Hindu and Buddhist meditation of focusing on the breath. Mindfulness meditation encourages you to be aware of the feelings in the body and thoughts in the mind. A positive practice. Just don't expect any results for a long time. I've done a lot of meditation. So, what's that, Daisy? Mindfulness meditation. I think if you do it all your life, then it can be very useful. For me, it's very useful now, but I've been doing meditation since I was 19. So I've been meditating for 21 years, and now it's useful. It took 21 years to be useful. But now it's useful. I always felt very interested in consciousness, and I still am. All right. Are we ready to move on to the next one? This is Lyndon. Lyndon from Australia. Australia. I wish I could do the accents for you. I'm feeling a little bit tired today, so it's a little bit tricky. So we're going to listen to Lyndon, and I'm going to go quick. I'm going fast for this one. Are you ready? Lyndon. Good day, everyone. I'm Lyndon. When I retired, I felt useless and depressed. I decided to tackle it head on. I started spending at least 30 minutes outside every day, rain or shine. Sunlight gives you vitamin D, which is great for your mood. And guess what? I stopped drinking alcohol. It was tough, but the improvement in my mood was incredible. And the lesson that I learned from that is small choices can lead to big changes. Okay, I'm not going to confirm the answers for Lyndon because I want to read Raj. Raj is the last one. So I'm going to read Raj, and I'm going to be very quick speaker now, as fast as I can possibly speak. You ready for this? Here's Raj. Hello everyone, my name's Raj. I made a couple of practical changes to try and beat my depression. First, I started a regular sleep schedule. A lack of sleep can really mess with your mood. And after that, I stopped eating junk food and I started eating a balanced diet. Exercise was also pretty key. And on top of that, I was taking probably about a 20-minute walk or so every day. I cut out alcohol and I started instead drinking herbal teas. Like chamomile and stuff like that, which chamomile in particular is known for its calming effects. And, I was pretty surprised about it, but in fact, these simple changes, they can have quite a big difference over time. Okay. Right, so for Lyndon, we had the going outside and vitamin D and stop drinking alcohol. And stop drinking alcohol was part of Lyndon, and also, wait, was that part of Lyndon? Yeah, and also part of Raj. Raj replaced that with herbal teas and stopped eating junk food. Also Raj mentions a simple 20-minute walk every day, which is our bonus information for Raj. 20-minute walk every day. So very kind of down-to-earth things, but they really do work if you start to implement them. And the point is, you have to implement them, make them habitual, and do them. And as you do them, you will definitely start to feel better day after day. It's not something that happens immediately, which is why we need to use those habits. Need to make those things into habits. So, let's go back in time. We've got John, our good old John here, John boy. And John feels better now because he had some therapy, CBT, and he took vitamin B. However, what about in the past? Here's John in the past. Hi everyone, I'm John. Lately I've been feeling really down. It's affecting everything. My work, my relationships, just my whole life. I'm feeling really overwhelmed and I struggle to wake up in the morning. Does anyone feel like that sometimes? What can we say to John? How can we help John? What advice? Let's imagine that you're talking to John now. What would you say to John? I want you to give advice to John. So, what advice could you give to John? And how? Maybe a psychologist could help you, says Sonia. All right. Maybe gossiping more with me will help lift up your mood, says Daisy. You could plan a target to wake up early, says Maria del Carmen. I can feel you, John. Just keep pressing the snooze button, says Ashley Chien. Hi, Sir Rich. It's a pleasure to see you again, says Meow Meow. Hello, Meow Meow. Have a date with a handsome woman. I recommend that you have dinner with Sharon Stone. I did, and it works. Okay. So, Manuel directly says, have a date with handsome. I don't really like the term handsome woman. A beautiful one, maybe. Handsome is normally reserved for men. Have a date with a beautiful woman. Talking with a woman is the best antidepressant. Are you sure, Manuel? Always. Sometimes maybe it's the best pro-depressant. Kashata, John, make sure you get 8 hours of sleep. Fantastic. You could practice meditation. Rich says, I think John must have had 2 personalities. In my advice, John needs to get rid of negative thoughts and overthinking. Yeah, I've always wondered about that. What does that mean, get rid of negative thoughts and overthinking? How do you do that? Listen to music and just relax, says Mina. All right. Getting in touch with someone is necessary, says Manuel. Fantastic. So, the language that you're all using here is language for giving advice. And we've seen a couple of possibilities. We've said maybe a psychologist could help you. You could, dun, dun, dun. You should, dun, dun, dun. Maybe you could, dun, dun, dun. My advice is that, there's another one. My advice is that you should. My advice is that you could. Okay. All right, what other ways do we know of giving advice? So here's some that I've got. Are there any others that we could add to the board? Let's add your best bet, because that's one that people commonly like. Your best bet would be to take vitamin B tablets. Your best bet would be to implement a number of strategies. Your best bet would be to do a number of positive habits. How about sitting meditation? Yep, we got the how about. Well done, Julia. Sonia says, I think it's not so simple to change your thoughts. Yeah, well, that is the idea of CBT, is to change your thoughts. That the purpose of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Renit says, you must at least change your way of thinking about yourself. Yeah, but how do you do that, Renit? Maria del Carmen says, if I were you, I'd start taking vitamin D and vitamin B and omega-3. If I were you, I'd do thing. If I were you, I'd say, hello, Domenico. If I were you, I'd say, top of the morning to you, Domenico. And welcome to Ireland, sorters, to be sure. Top of the morning to you. There's three ways about. Three pubs in the area in Ireland. Okay, enough. Enough, Rich. Enough. How was it, Domenico? Did you have fun? How about you make an enrollment in a sports club? How about enrolling in a sports club? Prabjot says, hey, Teacher Rich. Hello. Hello there, Prabjot. How are you? How are you? And what is going on? Daisy says, if I were you, John, I'd talk with my family relatives. Truly expressing how I felt. That's if you've got a supportive family, Daisy. Not everyone has a supportive family. But if you do have a supportive family, that can be nice. Julia says, why don't you enjoy your quality time alone and solidarity? Steer away from the overwhelming lifestyle, the overwhelming lifestyle. Julia, that depends, doesn't it? It depends whether you're an extrovert or an introvert. If you are an introvert, that's great. If you're an extrovert, I'm not so sure that would work. Can we make inversion? Where are you, Ide? Yeah, kind of. Not usually with something so simple as that, Maria del Carmen. But what you can say is, were I in your situation, I'd, or were I to be you, I'd, then you could do it. It sounds very formal, but we could say it. Like that. Were I in your situation, I'd. And as I've said, sounds super formal. You could still say it, just if you want to come across very formal. Yeah, were I in your situation, I'd consider having a lemon tea. All right. All right, so what I'd like to do now is using that vocabulary. I want you to give some advice to some people. So we're going to use the vocabulary. So I'll just take that vocabulary. Dunk. So we have the vocabulary. Nice little useful vocabulary here. Dunk, like that. Okay, and we're going to give some advice to some people. Maybe you can see that. Maybe you can't. I don't know. All right. First person is this person. Emma. So, Emma's been feeling really tired lately, despite getting a full night's sleep. So, I'd like you to use the phrases to give advice to Emma. Type your answers in the chat. Giving advice to Emma. Emma's been feeling really tired lately despite getting a full night's sleep. Use the phrases. Give advice. In the chat. Pallavi says she doesn't look tired. That's because she's a good actor. Domenico says advice was the topic I got during the test. That's a bit of a coincidence, Domenico. If I were in your shoes, that's quite nice. I like that. Meow, meow. Have you thought about trying? 1 option 2. You might find it beneficial. You might find it beneficial too. From my experience, I suggest a good idea could be. That's all good stuff. That's all good stuff. A good idea could be. You might find it beneficial. Yeah, it's really good that. Meow, meow. Good stuff you got there. I particularly like. If I were in your shoes, I'd. Boom. If I were in your shoes, I'd. That, it's kind of reserved for a warning almost when you say, if I were in your shoes. If I were in your shoes, I would apologize. For example. Manuel says, Dear Emma, first of all, you should go to bed at the same time every night, but only 8 hours sleep. Otherwise, it's oversleeping. Oversleeping makes you feel sleep the whole day. Very good, Manuel. Daisy says, maybe you could eat sweet snacks like ice cream. Eating sweet things will lift up your mood. What do you mean lift up your mood? She doesn't have a mood problem, Daisy. She's tired. You want to eat sweet things just to stop being tired? Sonia said you should have a checkup to look at your physical condition. Okay. All right, everybody, let's move on to the next one. So the next one is Tim. And Tim has been feeling down. Tim's feeling down because he hasn't been able to see his friends due to a busy schedule or schedule. Schedule or schedule. It's like often and often. Schedule, schedule. Often, often. They're both okay. They're both part of standard English now. So Tim is feeling down. Hasn't been able to see his friends due to a busy schedule. Whatever you want. Apparently, I prefer to say schedule. Didn't realize that. I actually told my students the other day to say schedule, or I said the British one was schedule, but I've just found myself saying schedule. It is another standard though. It's not incorrect. It's part of standard English. Schedule, often. It's all good. If I were you, Tim, I would talk with my friends via Zoom and gossip with them for hours. Are you sure, Daisy? That sounds like potentially a waste of time. I don't mind gossiping, but I like to gossip like in the staff room at work, not like in my free time. Manuel says, I've been there, feeling blue after a breakup. You sink in a shell, impossible to go out. We need to talk about it over a dinner or a beer. Right. But what about Tim? Maria del Carmen just says, you should meet with your friends frequently. Well, yeah, but the problem is, Maria del Carmen, he hasn't been able to see his friends due to a busy schedule. I think Tim needs to take a break from work. Tim, I think your best bet would be to take a week off work and take a week for yourself and your family and friends. How about setting aside a specific day each week to spend time with your friends, even if it's just for a short meetup? Excellent, meow meow. Very good. That is top quality stuff. Well done. Right. Let's move on to... We're going to move on to Mia. Mia. So Mia feels stuck in her daily routine and it's making her unhappy. Mia feels stuck in her daily routine and it's making her unhappy. Has anyone ever felt like you're just doing the same thing every day? Anyone ever felt like that? Has anyone ever felt like they're just doing the same thing every day? Mia feels stuck in her daily routine and it's making her unhappy. Pallavi says, I'm in that situation now. So we can even give advice to Pallavi for this. Maybe you could, by the way, Daisy, in these situations, it should be one word maybe. Maybe you could. Not may and then be like that. Maybe you could change your location, move into a new city in order to start a new routine. Wow, that's a big change. But yeah, maybe you're right, Daisy. Mia, if I were you, I'd quit this job. Were I in her situation, I'd listen to music and do some exercises. Nice job, Pure Care. Your best bet would be to push your limits and change your routine. Wow, we got some great language coming out here. Well done, everybody. We got some fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. All right, let's try one more. We'll try one more. And then we'll move on to the homework and questions. Manuel says, Dear Mia, you should listen to the Queen song, I Want to Break Free. You need a mental makeover. If you're an early bird, you could start to be a night owl. Love it. That's really great, Manuel. What fantastic advice. If you're feeling stuck, if you're an early bird, become a night owl. Yeah. So Tom is feeling disengaged at work, and it's starting to make him feel down. He's starting to feel disengaged at work. And that's bad. I mean, I'm someone, I really prioritize engagement. I think engagement is really important. So, poor old Tom is starting to feel disengaged at work. And it's starting to make him feel down. So, what advice do we have for Tom? This is our last opportunity. I'm going to make it a bit harder because you're just copying the phrases, aren't you? There we go. Oh, can you remember the phrases? Maybe you could talk with your colleagues. Wow, Daisy says, if I were you, I would resign and search for a new job. What, is that it? Really? You feel disengaged at work? Just look for a new job? I mean, it's an option. I've done it before. It is an option. It is an option. I can work for my mum. Well, do you want to work for your mum, though? Is working for your mum a good idea? Not necessarily always a good idea, is it? But yeah, you could. You could work for your mum, I guess. Maybe he could pick up the challenges at work. So what you're saying, Julia, also, it's maybe one word. Everyone's doing it now. Look, Daisy, people are copying you because they're used to your English being so good. It's one word, guys. One word, maybe. Okay? We can say may be as separate words, but that's like... He may be a good student. I don't know. Right? But here, maybe you should, maybe he could. Okay? It's different. Pronunciation's the same. It's a simple mistake to make, Daisy. An easy mistake to make. I'm sorry to hear that, Tom, says Meow Meow. It's important to address this. Have you considered having a conversation with your supervisor about feelings of disengagement. You know what, Meow Meow? In a perfect world, that is really good advice. But in the real world, you need a good manager for them to help you in that way. It's possible, you know? If you got a really good manager, it could work. It could do. If I were you, I'd try and get a promotion. Do you think that's going to help, Mina? Just get a promotion? Just keep getting promotions every time you feel down? Yeah. All right, everybody. So that brings us on to homework. So if you remember rightly, I asked you to talk about your country in 1939, or any country. Didn't have to be your country. It was just the idea that I wanted you to talk about our country in 1939. Talk about what happened in that country in 1939. And I have 6 submissions. So I'm going to read the list of the people who've sent me their homework. And if you sent me your homework, but I don't say your name, then please try to send the homework again. In order to send the homework, you need to go to Discord, our Discord server. And on our Discord server, you can send me the homework in a private message. Okay? So there is the address. There is the address. So we're listening to homework, and let's get up a relevant picture because the unicorns are not really super relevant. Okay, we'll have the multicolored Churchill there. So while Churchill was doing his thing, what was going on in these other countries? And we're going to start with... I'll do it alphabetical this time. I haven't done alphabetical in a while. We're going to start with Anawat. All right, let's have a listen.
Hello, everybody.
Let me just... Have I got my... Yes, okay.
Today, I'm gonna talk about the interesting things that happened in Thailand in 1939. Thailand's Prime Minister back then, Mr. Piboon, wanted to be a Führer of the country. He was an admirer of Benito Mussolini of Italy. He launched a modernization campaign known as the Thai Cultural Revolution that included a series of cultural mandates. He changed the country's name from Siam, S-I-A-M, which is an acronym term, to Thailand, which has a double meaning of both land of the free and land of the Thai people. The change was part of Piboon's determination to bring his people into the modern world, and at the same time to emphasize their unique identity. He also standardized the Thai language and forced people to communicate with Central Thai language in public rather than using regional dialects. People were told to start wearing Western-style clothes instead of the usual traditional ones, and they were supposed to use forks and spoons for eating, not their hands like they used to in Thai culture at the time. By the way, at the start of World War II in September 1939, after Germany invaded Poland, Thailand pursued a policy of neutrality. The Thai government aimed to maintain independence and avoid being drawn into the conflict. And Japan didn't invade Southeast Asia until December 1941. That's it. Thanks for listening.
Fantastic. We get some great stuff from Anawat. And, sometimes I struggle to believe that he never spends any time speaking English because he just speaks English so well, particularly if he is indeed not reading from a script there, because just so much great language. So I don't know how much of how extensive your notes are, Anawat, but some great stuff there. Modernization. There was a lot of modernization going on throughout the world in the 1930s and 1940s. He talks about that. He talks about the renaming of Thailand and how it has a double meaning, meaning the land of the Thai people, and also another thing that I missed, sorry. And he talked about how the leader of Thailand at the time, the Prime Minister, was an admirer of Mussolini, who, of course, is the famous Italian fascist. Some people might say that he was kind of the inventor of fascism. Fascism is kind of a modern ideology. And some people even argue that, for example, Hitler was not a fascist. He was a dictator, but as a national socialist, he didn't quite fit into the same category. Anyway, Mussolini, and then also that he standardized the Thai language and he encouraged people to eat with knives and forks. So kind of making Thailand into more of a global country, standardizing the Thai language. That's a big step. One of the reasons why English is in the position that it's in today is because English was standardized a long time ago. So, really interesting. Hitler's best friend. Well, that's interesting, Daisy. People think that, but actually Mussolini and Hitler did not get on very well. They didn't get on very well. Italy became Germany's ally, that's true. But do you know who Hitler really liked? He really liked the old British kings, like King George, who was dead by then. He died, and his son came in, right? And then his son had a scandal with Wallis Simpson, or whatever her name was. What's her name? Wallis Simpson, something like that, and had to abdicate. But the old monarchy, the old English monarchy, Hitler really liked them. He wasn't that keen on Mussolini, but he made the alliance with Mussolini because it was a strategic thing. Hitler never got on well with anybody. He sent them immediately to be killed. Yeah, later on, that's definitely true, Manuel. But I think early on, there were some people who he looked up to. Like maybe even people like the Kaiser, to some extent, It's just that later on, he became this madly power-obsessed lunatic and didn't want anyone getting in his way. So let's move on. And now we're going to listen to Daisy. We're going alphabetically today. Okay, let's go. Pro English. Here we go. Pro English mode, everybody. Get ready.
Hi everyone. Today I'm going to tell you about how World War II had affected Vietnam tremendously. Before World War II happened, Vietnam had been a colony France since 1858. Natural resources were the lure for the French, as Vietnam had one of the world's greatest natural resources of coal and rubber. The Vietnamese people detested the French colonization, as France extracted raw materials and exploited cheap labors. And here's how World War II changed Vietnam forever. In 1940, as Germany effortlessly slid through France like butter, Japan, which was Germany's ally at that time, invaded Vietnam. As a result, France lost control of Vietnam temporarily during World War II, as Japan and France thought of Vietnam, an independence movement was formed under Ho Chi Minh, who was inspired by a Russian revolutionary politician named Lenin, and Ho Chi Minh decided to establish the National Independence Coalition, also famously known as Việt Minh, to repel foreign invaders. Ho Chi Minh declared Vietnam's independence from France on September 2nd, 1945, just right after Japan's surrender in World War II. After the French rejected Vietnam's independence, Việt Minh resorted to a coup warfare to fight for the country's independence. And the bloody conflict between both sides came to an end after a 4-month siege at Điện Biên Phủ, marking the end of the French colonization. In 1954, the Geneva Accords divided Vietnam at the 17th parallel, whether the North would be ruled by Ho Chi Minh and the Communist government, while the South would be ruled by Emperor named Ba That. The US was watching the situation in Vietnam with growing unease because the US was afraid that the communism from the North would spread to the South and eventually to the rest of Asia. So it decided to send money, supply, military advisors to the South, like what it did to the Korean Peninsula, deepening the division in the country. By 1963, the North has sent soldiers to the South to repel America. With tremendous support from Russia and China and the Vietnamese soldiers' perseverance, and the Vietnam War ended in 1975 after 20 years of fighting strategically. Finally, the North and the South were reunified shortly thereafter, where Saigon became Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi became the capital of the new Socialist Republic of Vietnam.
Wonderful. That was quite an extensive history there, Daisy, of Vietnam, not just in 1939, but all kinds of stuff. So let's have a look at some of the excellent vocabulary that we got there from Daisy. So we got one of the world's greatest natural resources of coal and rubber. I didn't realise that. Is that true? I know that there's a lot of rubber in Southeast Asia, and particularly some of the islands, Indonesia and so on. I didn't realise Vietnam had one of the greatest natural resources of coal and rubber. That's quite interesting. That does explain the French interest, actually, and why they didn't perhaps want to let go. Exploited cheap labour. Okay, strong qualification. Very good. Hang on, let me just fix this. Okay. Damn it. Sexploited. No. Exploited cheap labour. Great. Good strong collocation there. And then something that made me laugh, you might have seen, which was, as Germany effortlessly sliced through France like butter. Oh my God. Yeah, wow. I guess you can say that because, you know, the French maybe did some bad things in Vietnam. I don't know the history, but yeah. I don't know if they effortlessly sliced through France like butter. I think there was some resistance. But what France is famous for is once you get to the capital, the whole country goes, right? So with France, you just need to get to Paris. Once you're in Paris, it's over, right? And Germany had big tanks. So they were able to get to Paris. That's what I translated from Vietnamese history, really. It's a good translation. I mean, it works in English as well. It just sounds so funny. Yeah, they effortlessly sliced through France like butter. I mean, pretty much. I think it didn't take long. It didn't take long. But you have to bear in mind, to be being fair to the French, France is kind of flat with roads. The Germans had big tanks. And yeah, I mean, it's probably Germany's highest point in the war was when they took Paris and France surrendered. That was probably when, like, Hitler thought, oh, I'm going to win, right? That was probably Germany's highest point. From that point, a lot of things started to go wrong for them. Okay, anyway, moving on. We've got just loads of language, really. Ho Chi Minh decided to establish blah, 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 based on a revolutionary Russian. Old Lenin, Vladimir Lenin. Yes, we all know about him. After France rejected Vietnam's independence. Something looks weird there. Independence. I feel like I'm spacing out. I had too much coffee. It's like there's too many N's in there. Independence. Okay. After France rejected Vietnam's independence, I wonder why they rejected it. It's a bit silly, isn't it? After you've just had a war with Germany and someone's invaded and you've resisted and all this. And then what... Do you know why, Daisy? Why did they reject Vietnam's independence? There was a bloody conflict. God damn it. I really need to start using a different program. Active Inspire just isn't cutting the mustard anymore. I didn't quite catch this word. I don't know what you said. Something about someone was watching Vietnam with growing concern, was it? It was about the United States, I think, or someone. And then something about deepening division in the country. Deepening the division in the country. Which was to do with the separating into the North and South, I think. If it's an idiom, it's new to me. Which idiom? Which one, Julia? What, cutting through France like butter? That's not an idiom. That's just a comparison, isn't it? It's like he hit the desk like a truck. That's not an idiom. That's just using like to say similar as. They think that Vietnam was their permanent colony. Well, that was it. That was their reason. You sure? Is that the Vietnamese version? Hang on. I'll tell you the French perspective. Economic interests. Yeah, they wanted your rubber and coal and rice, apparently. Strategic importance. Maintaining control over Vietnam allowed France to exert influence in Southeast Asia. Okay, so lots of selfish reasons. National prestige. Okay. Cold War politics. Ah, that's a big one, Daisy. Cold War politics. So the idea of USSR, East versus West, the United States, capitalism, communism. That's probably a big one as well, why they wanted to stay there. Interesting. It's interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, France, they have this whole, like, national anthem about liberté, fraternité, you know, like freedom, brotherhood, all this. And then when one of their colonies says, we want independence, they're like, no. It's like, what? Doesn't make sense. What do you mean, no? What happened to liberty, fraternity, and all that? All right, thank you, Daisy. That was really informative, very interesting. Very, very interesting. I'm of the belief that France think they won the war. Hey, the French always think they win the war, okay? we should know. We've had more wars with the French than anyone. Okay? The English and the French have had a lot of wars. The French always think they win. I'm not sure they've actually won any. Even the 100 Years' War. We just decided we didn't want any more war. It wasn't that they won. We just decided, okay, that's enough war. Okay. I'm joking around. Let's move on. Who have we got next? Next, we've got... we've got a treat, everybody. Next, we've got Elena. I think this is the first one that Elena's sent in. And I don't think she's in chat at the moment. But anyway, we've got Elena. She is in chat sometimes, and she's on the Discord. So let's have a listen. Let's have a listen to Elena.
Hello, I'm from Russia, and I'm going to tell you about some events connected with Russia. On the 28th of April 1939 took place the non-stop flight Moscow, USA. It was performed by Vladimir and Mikhail Gordienko. This flight covered 8,000 kilometers and lasted about 22 hours. The courageous, brave pilot and his navigator could successfully solve the most difficult tasks of world aviation. On the 30th of April, the World's Fair opened in New York. Visitors to the USSR pavilion had the opportunity to see an amazing crystal map of Moscow. The pavilion impressed the visitors with its scope and luxury. On the 23rd of August, the Soviet-German non-aggression treaty was signed. Earlier, similar agreements with Germany were signed by Poland, Great Britain, France, and other countries. The country's leadership understood that Hitler would start a war with the USSR. There was already a war in Poland, so they tried to buy time and prepare for military action.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so very interesting. The first time we've had a submission from Elena. So I very much enjoyed the second half of that when it sounded like Elena was speaking a bit more freely. The first part, pronunciation fantastic, by the way, Elena. Very, very nice pronunciation. Very clear. Very clear. You could probably increase the tempo a little bit because the way you're speaking is super clear. Super clear. It felt like you were reading from a text or something at the start. There was some great vocabulary, but it did feel a bit like you were reading from something. So you were talking about some sort of flight that took place. Oh, no, not back to Daisy. You were talking about the first transpolar flight or something. And you made a common error of starting the sentence with the verb rather than the subject. So you said, like, took place the non-stop flight. Whereas actually we want to say the non-stop flight, what was it, transpolar flight or something? What was it? Transatlantic and transcontinental, let's call it that. Transatlantic flight took place rather than took place the flight. We can't really do that in English. You've got to start with the subject, unless you're using some fancy inversion that we're not going to talk about right now. So the non-stop transatlantic flight took place. Courageous, brave pilot. Really good. I love courageous. I love brave. Courageous and brave together. Maybe that's a bit much. We're just sort of saying the same thing twice. So let's just cut it down to just the courageous pilot or the brave pirate. Successfully solved the most difficult tasks of world aviation. That's a really great sentence. And that's why I was a little bit suspicious that you were reading from an article, because it sounds really great. It's kind of very well formulated. It's like the voiceover for a documentary. Then moving on, the World's Fair opened up. An amazing crystal map of Moscow. Is that what you said? A crystal map of Moscow. What's that all about? A crystal map of Moscow. I don't know anything about that. Maybe I missed what you said exactly there about crystal map of Moscow or something. Not quite sure. Anyway, moving on. They tried to buy time and prepare for military action. That's very strong language. And that's where it really sounded like natural speech as well, because it just sounded like you were speaking naturally. They tried to buy time and prepare for military action. So yeah, really, really strong pronunciation, Elena. I'd love to hear more from you. And perhaps if you are, again, I've been wrong a few times. I say people are reading from text, and then they tell me in the chat that they are not reading from a text. If you are reading from a text, try next time to do it without, just speaking without reading from the text, and let's see how it comes out. It's okay if there's some ers and ums and stuff, don't worry. I know everyone wants it to be perfect because you're going out on the internet. It's not, don't worry about that, okay? Don't worry about that. It's just nice to hear some natural language, and then we can really see how it's all coming out. But yeah, lovely, and very interesting to hear the Russian perspective. We don't often hear a Russian perspective about World War II. I can tell you that in this country we do not study the Russian perspective of World War II. Interestingly enough, we do study the German perspective, but we don't study the American, Russian, or French perspective. We just look at it from the British side and from the German side. It's like World War II for us is like Germany versus Britain, and everyone else is just at the side doing something else. Yeah. All right, then. Let's move on. Thank you, Elena. Let's see who we got next. Next up, we got Julia. Getting loads of submissions these days. Gonna have to make it so like it's a whole stream for homework correction. All right, Julia Khatata. So she's gonna tell us about her country, which is it Thailand as well? Julia, I can't remember. All right, let's find out.
To be honest, I'm not a history buff and not well versed in the events of the Great War. World War I had a significant impact on India in many ways, and marked by the complex cooperation of economic, social, and political forces. India, as a British colony at the time, found itself reluctantly drawn into the global conflict, with over 1 million Indian forces serving on various forms, from Europe to the Middle East. Although its political in and of itself was shady in the earlier phase of the World War I, in many people's opinion, they thought that the war as a European war and likely to overlook their major role and actively participation in the battlefield. At home, the war fostered as a sense of Indian nationalism and unity, and the rejection of Western violence as a means to the end. The Indian soldiers did, time after time, prove themselves as the capable soldiers, as their own government didn't much believe in them, and often felt left out in the cold. There was economic repercussions, including inflation and food shortages, exacerbated the suffering of the Indian population. In conclusion, World War I catalyzed a sense of unity and dissent within India, ultimately contributing to the broader trajectory toward its eventful independence from British rule. Last but not least,
Just going to listen to that again. 1 second.
trajectory toward is eventful within India, ultimately contributing to the broader trajectory toward is eventful independence from British rule. Last but not least, the war ordeal, often portrayed as the Armageddon event, was a testament to their unwavering spirits of Indian nationalism and unity, and left the Indian people traumatized and depletion of food and in the hostile situation, so to speak.
Okay. All right, let's have a look at some language there from Julia. Actually, I didn't realize you were from India, actually, Julia. Maybe I should have known from your accent, but for some reason I thought you were from perhaps Bangladesh, but maybe... for some reason I had Thailand in my mind. I don't know why. So, drawn into the global conflict. Excellent bit of language there. Being drawn into the global conflict. The economic repercussions. Economic repercussions. And then there was a sentence I struggled to understand a little bit. A lot of really tough language in there. And the pronunciation was I found it a little bit difficult in the middle. So you said contributing to the broader trajectory. Contributing to the broader trajectory. Trajectory. Contributing to the broader trajectory towards independence from British rule. Contributing to the broader trajectory towards independence from British rule. Yes. Actually, I know basically nothing about independence of India. Again, it's not something we really study. Look, I've done it again. What is all this? What is my spelling about today? Independence. Okay, there we go. Towards independence from British rule. Independence. When did India gain independence from British rule? The only thing I remember, the only time that I studied the independence of India from British rule was in religious studies. In religious studies, we studied Gandhi's acts of passive resistance. That's when we studied Indian independence. It was one class. We did one class on it. Out of interest. Interestingly enough, so trajectory was the word I struggled a little bit with, but the vocabulary is fantastic there. Then we had the unwavering spirits of Indian unity. I like this unwavering spirit. Unwavering spirit. We don't need to pluralize it. The unwavering spirit of Indian unity. Very good. Something left the Indian people traumatized. I didn't quite catch what it was that left them traumatized. Economic consequences or something. But yes, being left traumatized is a strong collocation. So that's brilliant. And right at the end, I love how Julia, right at the end of everything, she just goes, so to speak. I don't know if it was so to speak, though, because it sounded like you were speaking literally, whereas so to speak actually means hypothetically or metaphorically really. But maybe Julia's just being very polite. She's using hedging. Right, which means, so to speak. Yeah, it caused huge economic consequences, so to speak. Although it did cause economic consequences. So a little bit of hedging there. Hedging is when you say maybe, when you mean yes, it does. And you're doing it to be polite, be more polite. So maybe that's what it was. Thank you, Julia. Absolutely wonderful. Rich, may I ask, why wasn't the UK interested in invading Indochina? Two primary reasons, Daisy. One, the UK had committed to a policy of decolonization and enforcing the Commonwealth. So what they wanted to do was to pull out of anywhere that didn't want to remain with the Queen as head of state. And then for the places where the Queen was the head of state, Australia, Canada, South Africa, they wanted to create this sort of international collaborative effort. And actually, it failed mainly. And it was superseded by a kind of new American hegemony with the United Nations, NATO, and America leading the way. And the Commonwealth kind of became a bit of a joke. Like, nobody really pays attention to the Commonwealth, you know? The Canadians don't really think much about it. The Australians don't think much about it. It's almost like just a distant memory. Oh yeah, the Queen's our head of state, whatever, you know. So it didn't really work. So, but it was something like that. And the other reason, Daisy, is Japan had big ships. And the thing about the UK, the reason why the UK was so successful as an empire previously, was that we had big ships. And so I think they were a bit scared of Japan because they were like, whoa, Japan's got big ships like our big ships. Let's not go there. Let's stay over here with our big ships. And that's what they did. They stayed over there with big ships. Yeah. We had the biggest navy in the world in 1936. And the second biggest navy in the world, Japan. And Japan was building more ships. Yeah. So we didn't want to get involved with Japan. Because actually the British really wanted to help China at that time. But they just didn't have the resources. Big thing going on at China at the time. All right, anything else? So they don't believe, blah, blah, blah. Different people got started, the UK version, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Fantastic job, Julia. Yes, it was absolutely fantastic. Thank you. All right, wonderful. Okay, let's move on then. This is great. You know, the thing I'm really enjoying about this, actually, forget the English. I mean, the English is wonderful, but the really, really cool thing about this is getting all of these different perspectives on the 1939 history. I think that is really, actually, it's really, really fun. I mean, it was a terrible time for the world, but isn't it really interesting to like hear all these different, different perspectives on what went on? I think it's important. All right, so we'll move on. We're going to listen to Pallavi. We had a submission from Pallavi. Thank you, Pallavi, and well done. Well done for sending one in. Okay, let's have a listen. And just let me change over the notes. Okay.
Hello everyone, I'm going to talk about some events that were happened in 1939 in India. They are following. Number 1. In Bombay, Mohandas Gandhi refused to fast in protest of the autocratic rule in India. Number 2. Congress at Tripuri passes a resolution of adherence to the party of Gandhi. Number 3. Subhash Chandra Bose resigns as President of Congress and is succeeded by Rajendra Prasad. Number 4. 13 right-wing members of the working committee, including Pandit Nehru, resigned from Congress. Number 5. British India officially declared war on Nazi Germany in September India, as a part of the Allied nations, sent over 2.5 million soldiers to fight under British command against the Axis powers.
Fantastic. Can I comment, Pallavi, that your pronunciation is very good, very clear. The problem I had in hearing you was not your pronunciation, but the sound quality of your device. It sounded like you recorded the audio in the street with like sounds going on, or maybe you had your window open. Maybe it's very hot. But yeah, one thing that might help for next time is if you put your mouth close to the microphone, so you're kind of speaking here, and you're close to the microphone. That might help, because when there's background noise, that helps a lot. I'll demonstrate now. Like if I go over here and I start talking over here, or even if I talk over here, then you might hear my voice in a certain way. But then if I get here, I get right on top of the microphone, then you can hear there's a much higher quality of the audio when I'm right on top of the microphone, rather than when I'm over here speaking, and it's kind of a different thing. So that would definitely help. But yeah, lovely pronunciation from Pallavi. It did sound like you were kind of reading bullet points from a textbook rather than just talking about your own ideas. It's kind of like, this happened, then this happened. But some great language, such as in protest of the autocratic rule in India. Yes, in protest of the autocratic rule in India. When you say the autocratic rule in India, tell me about that. What do you mean? I want to know about that. What was the autocratic rule in India? Was that like an Indian king or something? Right-wing members resigned from Congress. Why? What's that all about? Why did the right-wing members resign from Congress? And then you said over 20.5 million. Do you mean 20.5 million? Or do you mean like 20 million sounds like a lot of soldiers? Are you sure it was that many? That's a lot of soldiers. Manuel says, such a surprise. I thought you were a man. Are you serious, Manuel? Have you seen on the Discord her avatar is like a little bunny or something? You thought Pallavi was a man? What are you talking about? Come on. Speak to me, Pallavi. I want to know more about this. I want to know about what was the autocratic rule in India? Who was the 1.5 billion population, 20 million is a minority. Yeah, but Alexander, it wasn't 1.5 billion in 1939. It might be 1.5 billion now, but in 1939 it definitely wasn't. It would be a lot less. Let's have a look. List of countries by population in 1939. India's just counted as British Empire. Jesus. Okay, let's have a look. Indian population. 1941, it was 300 million. 300 million. And that's in 1941. Well, Pakistan and Bangladesh are significantly smaller than India. So, I mean, with Pakistan and Bangladesh, we could be talking 500 million. And then, well, you half it to get the men. So that's 250 million. And then you take out the children and the old men. So then you get the men of fighting age. So, yeah, I suppose you're right, actually. It was about 10% of the population of men of fighting age is like 20 million. So, yeah, you're right. It's not that many. Because in England, every single man of fighting age was in the war. In England, everyone. Every single one. Unless you were like really important or you had a serious problem. Other than that, you were in the war. There was no men in the country. They were all fighting. Yeah, so I guess you're right. It is a kind of a minority. So I thank you so much for that, Pallavi. I did want to hear a bit more about the things you were talking about, but it seems you've disappeared. But thank you very much. I really thought that your pronunciation was fantastic. Your language was great as well. And I hope to get submissions of homework for you in the future. Go for it. Come on. All right. Let's move on to our next one. This is our last, and it's Vladimir. Daisy, I didn't get any German submissions. And actually, I don't think there's a German person in our learning community. And the reason for that is probably because Germans have very good English. There used to be one, didn't there? On Oxford Online English, there was someone. And I used to... Was it Beata or something, right? Or Beate? Beate. Do you remember? There was a guy who used to come on and I used to do some... Yeah, Beate, yeah. We could ask him. I can tell you the thing about the German perspective is they get taught so... Yeah, they get taught so much that it was a national disgrace. Like, they get it drilled into them. So they tend to be the most negative about the Germans. Like, they blame themselves completely for the whole thing. And yeah, personally, I'm not, obviously people got swept up in the thing. They did really nasty stuff. Yeah, we know that. But I find it what I would really like to hear, Daisy, is I would like to hear the Japanese perspective. That's what I want to hear. If any Japanese students come along, I would love to hear the Japanese perspective. That's what I want to hear, because the Japanese do not beat themselves up about it. The Germans do, right? So I would love to hear the Japanese perspective. I think that would be interesting. And as far as I'm aware, the Japanese still celebrate their war heroes. So anyway, we're going to move on. We're moving on now to our last homework submission. This is Vladimir. I'm not sure where is Vladimir from Russia, or I'm not sure, or Poland or something. I'm sorry, Vladimir. I'm not sure exactly where you're from. And anyway, you can tell us about any country. It doesn't have to be where you're from. So let's have a listen.
Since 1936, compulsory education was introduced. Illiterate youth aged 14 to 18. In 1939, the female literacy rate in BSSR was 68.1%. In November 1938, the first literacy school was opened, which taught in Belarusian. In cities, 7-year and full-time secondary schools dominate. Secondary vocational schools have been set up. Many specialized universities have been established. 199 newspapers and 14 magazines were in print. There are a total of 1063 cinema units, mainly audio cinema units. Regional libraries, clubs and village reading rooms have been set up. Research on oil and other mineral resources in the Pelagian Saddle has begun. Dramatic comedy He Whose Laughs Last reveals contract talent. The collective farm theaters and Puppet Doll Theatre were founded in Gomel. The first national ballad, Nightingale, premiered. The film The Man Who Lives in a Shell was released. The landscape painting Duchess and the large hydro pit has a unique understanding of nature in Belarus.
All right, it's really interesting to find out what was going on in Belarus at the time. Really interesting, actually. What was the name of Belarus would be part of the USSR, right, at the time? But yeah, we've got interesting. There wasn't particularly a conflict in Belarus. Instead, there was. It sounds like some interesting kind of development going on. So female literacy was low. Obviously, I imagine these days female literacy is very high in Belarus. The first literacy school was opened, which taught in Belarusian. So that's kind of interesting. I assume Belarusian's different than the Russian they speak in Moscow, right? So kind of a localized language. So as we heard from Anawat about the standardization of Thai, maybe something like that was going on in Belarus. And you said libraries and reading rooms have been set up. I don't think it makes sense with have been in this context. I think we want to say had been or even were. So had been set up or even just were set up. Might be a bit better, a little bit of grammar for you there. The film The Man Who Lives in a Shell was released. The Man Who Lives in a Shell. The Man Who Lives in a Shell. I don't know anything about this. What is this, The Man Who Lives in a Shell? Anton Chekhov. Is that Anton Chekhov? The Man Who Lives in a Shell by Anton Chekhov. Chekhov. Okay, yeah. I don't know anything about it. Never heard anything about this Man Who Lives in a Shell thing. So they translate it as the man in a case in English for some reason. The Man in the Case, even. Short story by Anton Chekhov. The Man in the Case. Interesting. Anyway, great. Really, that's really interesting to hear what was going on in Belarus at the time. Do you recommend The Man Who Lives in a Shell? Is that a film you've seen? What do you think about it, Vladimir? Anton Chekhov is famous for his theatre novels. So he's kind of like your Graham Greene. Like we've got Graham Greene. Graham Greene's our guy who's like he wrote loads of books, really good books, by the way, and they made like loads of them into theatre and later films. He's one of my favourite authors, by the way. I really enjoyed reading Graham Greene while I was at university. For fun. It's not like reading to study. I really enjoyed the stories for fun. And there's a whole load of them. He's wrote loads of books, and they're quite different and diverse. Most people will recommend Brighton Rock and The Power and the Glory as being the classics. And that's true. However, They are not my favorite. My favorites are The Third Man, Our Man in Havana, and The Quiet American. Yeah. The Quiet American, which, by the way, it takes place in Vietnam, Daisy. The Quiet American. Really interesting one. The Quiet American. I need to reread it. I can't actually remember what happens. I can't remember what happens. It's an American CIA agent, and there's a young Vietnamese woman called Thung. And I think he falls in love with her, but she's just using him or something. I can't remember. And they take opium together. But it's a great book. Really good book. Highly recommend it. The Quiet American. That's a must-read for Daisy. Have you read that? Must-read. English author. Story based in Vietnam. About an American. Wonderful. Great story. Great writer. Definitely check that out. Our Man in Havana is like a fun, like James Bond parody about a guy who's like the contact for the British, but in Havana. So he's kind of like a spy, but not really. That's very fun. And The Third Man is an absolute classic that's been made into films many, many times. It's The Quiet American. It's on the screen, Daisy. The Quiet American by Graham Greene. Graham Greene is just a fantastic classic author from 1950s mainly. So quite modern. Highly recommended. Or you can check out the film. He's one of those authors that they've made loads of films based on his books. So thank you for that, Vladimir. Thank you for introducing us to that. And also Alex is chipping in with Seagull, Three Sisters, and Cherished Garden. Yeah. Because of the current world situation, I might have to hang on until I dive into Russian literature and get interested in that. I don't know, without going into too many details. I teach asylum seekers at work, and there's quite a lot from a certain nationality, you might imagine, and I want to be sensitive to those students because I love my students, and I know that they've suffered. Might have to hang on to that, but one day I will. One day I will. So thank you for introducing me to that. And let's move on now to question time. We've got the notes here if you want to download any of the notes. I know, Alexander, I know. And my best friend from university is from Ossetia. And I talked to him about the situation, and I feel so sorry for him. He spent 5 years building his own video games business, and it's been obliterated by this. And he has family in Ukraine as well. But of course, everybody thinks, oh, he's from Ossetia, he's Russian. So he's getting squeezed on both sides. I feel so sorry for him. But he's strong. He'll get through it. He's left Russia now, actually, with his family, because he can't deal with that situation. But he spent 5 years building his business. He's got 2 kids. It's all gone. So lots of people get affected by this situation. Alexander, that's basically what he told me. He said loads of people are related. So it's so tough for everyone. I think it's really unfortunate the way that our media reports the situation, because it creates unnecessary divisions between people when this is not a war between normal people. It's the politicians and all the rest of it. Anyway, the notes for today. Notes for today. And any questions about English that I can help you with, type your questions now in the chat and I will give you any advice that I can about learning English, or I'll do whatever way I can to explain any English that will help you. Also, do make sure that you join our Discord. There's quite a few of those, Alexander. There's quite a few of those. And there's people who even were in the government. And then around about 1940, they started to come out and things happened to them. Like there was an economic guy who people said was responsible for the economic miracle in Germany. And when Hitler annexed the Sunderland in Czechoslovakia, I believe he resigned, and shortly afterwards he was put in a concentration camp, and I think he died in a concentration camp. And there was quite a few of those. Great to have you here, Manuel. Thank you very much, and I will see you for our lesson on Friday. We call angrit as an exonym. Exonym is an established non-native name for a group of people, meaning that it's used outside the particular place inhabited. What? I don't even understand what an exonym is. Exonym is a common native name for a group of people, individual person, place, language, or dialect. And you're saying angrit. Is angrit, do you mean angrit is like Thai English? Is that what you mean, Anawat? I haven't quite got it. Is it like Singlish? Singlish. Make sure, by the way, everybody, that you join me on Saturday at 2 p.m. because I'll be giving a new homework. So there will be a new homework Saturday, 2 p.m. And the topic on Saturday at 2 p.m. as decided by vote in our Discord server is ChatGPT Mastery. And let me tell you, I am a master of ChatGPT. I've taken lots of courses, and most of the time I take a course and I say, that's rubbish, I can do it better. Okay, I'm blowing my own trumpet now, but yes, I'm pretty good at ChatGPT. So definitely check that out on Saturday. And it means that homework could be ChatGPT related. So if you're in a country where you can't use ChatGPT, then there's a few options. I'll try and find some workarounds, like websites that allow you access. Oh my God, homework again. Daisy, this homework was from 10 days ago. All right? I think once every 10 days ain't that much for a bit of homework, is it? Pavia didn't bloody do it either. She's too busy with exams. Thai people can't pronounce the word English. They just say angrit. Ah, yes. Angrit. I understand, Anawat. I understand. Yeah. You get that kind of stuff everywhere. I mean, it's important to realise, how you want to speak and what you need to correct. But also, it's important to realise that people will be people and they'll say things a certain way. And sometimes you're fighting against a waterfall. You can't climb a waterfall, And I've been on the waterfall side, and I've been on the side of trying to climb the waterfall. And trying to climb the waterfall sucks, So one place where I'm on the waterfall side is with gonna, right? Like some English people, they try to climb the waterfall. They say, gonna is not correct English. It's going to. And if you say gonna, you sound like some sort of street person. But the waterfall has really taken them out, Feel sorry for them, actually. And another one is advertising and advertisement. Because the British traditional pronunciation is advertisement. Advertisement. But I'm on the waterfall with that one, with advertisement. But then there's some others where I'm against the waterfall. And I'll tell you 2 examples that come from non-native speakers. These come from non-native speakers. They come from so-called international English and popularized by non-native speakers. We have mispronunciation, from my perspective. Mispronunciation of that and that, and sometimes that, and sometimes that. So I think these 4 words are probably the words that are most commonly mispronounced between non-native speakers, and they don't realise that the pronunciation's wrong because all their friends also mispronounce them. And it's become so prevalent that I can see this the incorrect form becoming the correct one. In fact, I'm a bit worried about it because I don't like how they sound when they're incorrect, these words. So on this one, I'm underneath the waterfall, desperately hoping that it's not a waterfall and that I can climb up. So I'm going to fight against it. I'm going to fight against it right now with you. Are you ready? Word number 1. Here's how you say it. Salmon. 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 Like that. Salmon. 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 There's no okay? No just salmon. That's the correct pronunciation. Okay, next one. This one is iron. 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 Okay? Iron. There is no yes, Julia. The homework will be on Saturday. Saturday, 2 p.m. UK. We'll be talking about ChatGPT mastery. Okay, so we've got salmon, iron, and as you notice with iron, there's no And this next one, the pronunciation is comfortable. 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 So there is no ought. No ought. Right, it's just comfortable. 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 No ought. Right? Comfortable. 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 And finally, interesting. 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 So it's like the E disappears there, and we get interesting, 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 comfortable, interesting, salmon, iron. Daisy says, Rich, I can't use ChatGPT in Vietnam. Ashley's mind is blown. Ashley, is that because you heard people saying salmon and iron by any chance? So popular with non-natives to say salmon and iron. I'm really worried. It's so popular. I'm going to destroy it. Salmon, iron. There's no There's no in iron. There's never been an in iron. Oh, God. Can I win this one? I don't know if I can win this one. I can see the waterfall, and it's scary. So how can you use ChatGPT in Vietnam, Daisy? Let me think. I might be able to find a solution for you. There is a solution for that I can find for you that costs me money, which is that I can write a program in Python that uses the ChatGPT API. But every time that's pinged, it costs me a little bit. It's not a lot of money. So maybe it would just cost me, like, for that stream, maybe it just cost me a few dollars. If people are using it in countries where they don't have ChatGPT, maybe it just costs me a few dollars. So maybe I'll do that. To be honest, I don't think I'll have time, though, to put it together. So I don't think I can do it. But surely there is a website called ChatGPT Vietnam. Really? It says here there's a website called ChatGPT Vietnam. chatgpt.chatvn.org. Have you tried that, Daisy? It might be dodgy. Have you got good antivirus? Ashley says, I mispronounced iron. No mispronounce. I've been using Bing. It's cool too. Bing, everyone says Bing's got an attitude. Bing's like, yo, don't you tell me what I gotta do. ChatGPT is the best though, Daisy. There is quite a big difference. Bing might be cool, but ChatGPT it can do some amazing stuff. Just wait till the stream. Okay, I'll show you some things. Unbelievable, says Alexander. Really? Did you get caught by this as well? Dear Rich, I have a question for AI. I found that YouTube provides auto English titles for videos in Russian. Do you consider such translation is okay? Okay, so auto English titles for videos in Russian. So such translation is okay. What do you mean, do I consider such translation is okay, Alexander? Do you mean high quality, or do you mean useful for learning English? What do you mean by that? Oh no, see, I told you, Pallavi, it's because everybody does, all the non-natives do. Every class I have, I can find more than half the class. I could do a quick thing where I do these words, and I know that more than half the class will pronounce them incorrectly. But not natives. Natives never do it yet. Maybe they'll start doing it, though, because it's so prevalent. I can't buy a phone number in America. What are you talking about, Daisy? You don't need a phone number in America. Are you saying that you can buy a phone number in America? But you don't need one. You don't need a phone number in America. There's other ways. There's ways to get around it. How do you pronounce mountain? Mountain. Mountain. Mao, like Chairman Mao. Mao. Maun. So Chairman Mao, but with an N on. Maun. And then tin. Mountain. 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 And Pallavi says, I've never pronounced iron wrong, and anyone who does. Iron Man. Yeah. Iron Man. Iron Man. Iron Man. Iron Man. Oh, Alexander says for learning. For learning. So we can talk about subtitles for learning, okay? Let's talk about that. Subtitles for learning. Okay, so first of all, subtitles in your language. Subtitles in your language, they have basically zero effect. So subtitles in your language, basically zero effect. Not entirely though, not entirely zero effect, right? For example, I learned the Japanese Nandato from anime, and I know that it means like you, but in a disrespectful way, like you, Nandato, right? But basically they have zero effect. Okay, subtitles in English. They improve your reading and passive vocabulary. So if you watch English film with subtitles in English, you'll get passive vocabulary improvement and reading improvement. Doesn't help very much with your listening. Okay? And then obviously no subtitles. Improves comprehension, improves listening if you can understand the input. So when I say the input, I don't mean every word, but I mean the communicative purpose. So if I say, Alexander, could you pass me that pen, please? If you understand what I want, then great. And if you don't understand all the words, great. That will improve your passive vocabulary and your comprehension, your passive comprehension. Which is if you understand what I'm saying, but not necessarily every word. That's the sweet spot for improving listening comprehension. If you don't understand my communication, what is Rich talking about? I don't understand. Then find something easier. There's also a way of getting a leg up. Okay? So there's ways to make it easier. Ways to make listening comprehension easier without subtitles. Okay. Number 1. Choose a familiar context. So if you're an engineer, listen to something about engineering. If you like football, listen to a podcast about football in English, right? So choose a familiar context. Okay. Rewatch a favorite a favorite series from the past. For example, I rewatched Star Trek The Next Generation in Spanish, and it was great. Okay, because I know Star Trek The Next Generation very well, and I rewatched it in Spanish. It was really fun. Next, if you can't think of anything to rewatch, you can watch it first in your language or with subtitles. Wait about a week and then watch it again in English. This works well for stuff that's really good and rewatchable, like classic films, Inception, Pulp Fiction. Really good films and TV series. Okay. And then finally, we can start to get to stuff like slow it down. It's very easy to slow stuff down now. All the players, you can put it to different percentage. I don't recommend it unless you really need to. But you can do it. And actually, when slow it down can be really helpful is when you hear something and you're like, whoa, 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 what did he say? What was that? That was interesting. What was that? And then you go back, slow it down. What was that? What was he said? Por todo lo que quieras, no lo fumes. Okay. Por todo lo que quieras, no lo fumes. Interesting. Never heard that before. It's Spanish for whatever you do, don't smoke it. Or, for the love of God, don't smoke it. Por todo lo que quieras, no lo fumes. It's from Breaking Bad, when he poisons the cigarette. I watched Breaking Bad in Spanish. English has too many silent letters. Well, English just has weird writing in general, really. Ashley Chen says just mound. What? No tin? The mounds. Climb the mound. What? No tin? You can say mount. Like, we use mount with a T, mount. And we use that with the names, like Mount Everest. Mount Snowdon. Misspelled Snowdon. Snowdon. Anawat used to request an aisle seat when checking in. The ground staff didn't understand what I said. Because I said, like, ISIL. Finally ended up with a window seat. Oh, no. Yeah. ISIL. Yeah, nice one, Anawat. That's another one, isn't it? So it's aisle, isn't it? You probably know now it's aisle. 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 Oh, we got a yule there. Aisle. 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 By the way, you could have helped yourself. You could have said the seat on the end. Or the seat by the corridor. It's not really a corridor, but they will understand. And Pallavi says, Teacher, hello, teacher. Good afternoon, teacher. How may I learn the British accent, teacher? Please, dear teacher, tell me, how may we learn the British accent? Well, my dear Pallavi. Good question, Pallavi. It's obviously going to be quite tricky because you live in another country, and you in particular live in a country where lots of people speak English. And that actually makes it more difficult to learn a specific accent, because you'll hear the accent of all the people around you speaking English. And actually, from your country, there is a standard of English, Indian standard English. You have your own standard. So then it becomes even more difficult. I mean, it's at the point where we're asking, how does someone from Liverpool learn a standard British accent? All right there, lad, you want to go down the pub for a few bevies? You see the game by Gerrard? Do you see that goal by Gerrard? Hey, lad, that goal by Gerrard. Hey, lad. All right. That's Liverpool. So my hometown is about 10 miles from Liverpool. And I heard a voicemail recording of myself speaking when I was 19. And sounded just like this. It was like, hello, this is Rich. Leave a message after the beep and I'll give you a call back. Is that all right? Okay, something like that. Anyway, do you want to go on the pub for a few bevies, la? Right, very musical. So, my accent has changed, and two things changed it. One was university for 4 years. University changed it a bit. And then 15 years of language teaching. Yeah, 15 years of language teaching, that changed it. So those two things really. So you can change your accent. But, you know, it's not easy. The real trick, Pallavi, is you listen, and for you, it would be nice to listen to women, because you'll notice there is a difference between, like, specifically with a man and a woman, the way they speak, and when you're talking about accent level, not just pronunciation, but you want accent, then you really want to get it close to your final model. So really listen, and really listen to the sounds, and then stop, replay in your head, and then speak. And by doing that, you will get better. And you'll start to get very good at hearing and imitating sounds. And then you need to start listening to yourself and changing how you speak based on the sounds you hear. It's all a skill. And you get better at it, better at it, better at it. But it's not easy, because you have Hollywood actors, and some of them are very good at doing accents, and some of them are bloody awful. Some of them are bloody awful. Brad Pitt sucks at accents. Johnny Depp is amazing at accents. Okay? Not amazing. Johnny Depp's good at accents. Brad Pitt is rubbish at accents. Right? So some people are good, some people are bad. And these are people who have a lot of expensive training and they can't do it. Right? So it's not an easy skill, but you can do it. And it's all about training your ear and producing the sounds. You have to experiment with your mouth, making different sounds. It can actually help to learn different languages. I'm really fascinated by Vietnamese at the moment. And once I actually get a moment, I'm going to start learning more Vietnamese. But I love that ng. And, you know, it's a totally new sound for me. Ng, ngwin, ngwing, ngwing, ngwing. Ng, ng, ng. Never used my tongue like that before. Right, right at the back. Yeah. As you experiment with new sounds from different languages, then you start to become more comfortable with being able to make different sounds. And then you can do accents better. Well, I don't drink anymore, Julia. I'm a non-drinker. Hey, lads, your voice has become husky over time. Yeah, there's two reasons for that, Daisy. One is acid reflux. Two, too much coffee. Three, I've been streaming for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Is this the longest one? This might be the longest one. Meow Meow says, is it true that words like preternatural? What the hell is that? Albeit and intuate have been heard but not seen. The hell is intuate? Well, albeit is fine. Albeit you will hear. We would love to go to the beach today, albeit it has rained. What is this?
Preternatural.
Preternatural. What the hell is this? Where do you find this? I think this one's gone out of popularity. Preternatural. Beyond what is normal. Your behavior is preternatural. Okay. Yeah, that one, nobody uses that. And then what's this other one? Intuate? Intuate? What's that? Being only partly in existence. Wow, that's cool.
Inchoate.
Inchoate. Inchoate. Inchoate. Oh, from incoherent, inchoate. It was inchoate. How the hell would you use that? I've never heard this before. Inchoate. 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 She had a child's inchoate awareness of the language.
Inchoate.
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 Oh, inchoate. Is it? Inchoate. She had a child's inchoate awareness of the language. Oh, I'm sorry. I really can't help you with that. My awareness is inchoate right now. Okay. Yeah. No, don't use that. Albeit is all right, though. Albeit's like super fast. I just read Anawat's message. Albeit is super common. People use albeit all the time. Do you like smoking cigars? You know, Alexander, I used to be a smoker and I quit. And I haven't smoked a cigar because I never really enjoyed cigars when I was a smoker. But I think that cigars are actually better for non-smokers. It's a different thing, isn't it? So maybe I'll try another cigar one day. Yeah. I like Emilia Clarke's accent from Game of Thrones. The mother of dragons. How does Emilia Clarke speak in Game of Thrones? She's posh, though, so probably she does have a good accent. Rich threw a curveball for another homework assignment related to the topic today, how to navigate stress. Sorry, what? What did you say? The homework will be on Saturday. I will assign new homework on Saturday that relates to ChatGPT. Compliment from Pallavi. Thank you. Elena, you turned up. Thank you so much. Yeah, we listened to your homework, Elena, so you can go back and have a listen. Thank you for your submission. It was wonderful. and really interesting to hear the things you talked about. I didn't know about that non-stop transatlantic flight. I don't use ChatGPT, says Pallavi. Well, I don't care. On Saturday, I'm going to give you a lesson, and the homework is to use ChatGPT. Okay. I'll give an alternative for people who can't access it, but I think using ChatGPT will work better. Rich, I'll send you a picture of the Vietnamese cigarette. When you said Vietnamese cigarette, Daisy, do you mean the big thing? The thing that's like... Oh, okay. Xin chào. Okay. Oh, okay. Ciao. Is that what you mean? Oh, yeah, you do. I've been offered that loads of times, Daisy. One time I was just on my break at the British Council and I went to get a coffee and the guy this guy, I think he was drunk and he had the thing, hey, oh, and I'm like, no, it's okay. That's okay. Thank you. Looks dangerous. Rich, have you tried a Cuban cigar? Yes, of course. Long time ago. But I might try it again sometime. In the future, yes. To celebrate a very special occasion, perhaps. Teacher, what do you do when students don't do homework? I come to your house and take all of your money and possessions and then send you into the coal mines and you will work in the coal mines for 20 years. Okay, so do the homework or you go to the coal mines. No, I'm just kidding, Pallavi. If you don't do homework, I don't do anything. I just say stuff about you on stream. Like, that Pavia, who does she think she is not doing the homework? Exams, they're not important. What about English homework, huh? Why are people asking about cigarettes? Because why are people asking me about cigarettes? Did we speak about it? I think someone just brought it up because of Churchill. So suddenly we started talking about cigarettes. I don't know why. I want this to be the longest stream, so I don't want to finish until we're the longest we've ever gone. I think we've gone this long before. I'm going to have to go a bit longer. Someone asked me to do a collab. I don't know who they are. Someone called England Club. I'll post in Discord. He's got loads of subscribers. But it looks like he's just come back to his channel and started doing it again. So, yeah, it could be good. Could be good for us to do that. I'll post in the Discord. You guys can scout it out. Tell me if it's a good idea or not. I still need to do a collab with Carrie. I know. I'm just so busy. I don't want the stress of doing a collab right now. But I will do it. And I don't know what happened to the Ukrainian girl, the Pilates teacher. She wanted to collab. I emailed her and nothing. Disappeared. Don't know what happened. You're going to give me detention? Yeah. 10 years. I would drop a nuclear bomb at Richard's house if he gave me detention. Nuclear bomb. That's no problem. Then you get more detention. 10 years for no homework. Dropping a nuclear bomb. 20 years. No, actually, not doing homework's more important. So, not doing homework, 10 years detention. Dropping a nuclear bomb, 1 week detention. What about stinky bomb? Oh, that sounds really scary. Here the teacher gives punishment. They call parents. They scold. Oh, Pallavi. I feel sorry for you, honestly. Are your parents quite strict on you sometimes? At the end of the day, your parents want the best for you. They are trying for you to have the best life. That's what they want, hopefully. That's what they want. Unfortunately, parents are incompetent sometimes, but you'll learn that as you get older. When you get to be my age and you become bitter and cynical about all your bad habits, and you're like, why have I got these bad habits? Why wasn't I taught to be super disciplined? Yeah, my parents tried their best. They're lovely. Maria del Carmen, you must be kidding, right? What's this? In Seville, you'd go to jail. Hey? For what? What would you go to jail for, Maria del Carmen? Go to jail for what? Not doing homework? I'm missing this. Don't quite understand. Seville, you go to jail for not doing homework? What are you talking about? Oh, right, you're joking around. Okay. Maybe under Franco. Not today, I'd hope. Ashley Chen, I'm curious about your voice. Yeah, Ashley, what's going on? What the hell? 10 years of homework. Come on, we want to hear the Taiwanese perspective. Actually, I'm super excited to hear the Taiwanese perspective. Remember, I one of my managers now is Taiwanese. I read yesterday that more than 10% of Spanish neither work nor study. People have been criticizing Spanish people for that for decades, Alexander. I don't know if the stats are true. I don't know. It's possible. Prabjot says, is class finished? Not quite. We're just in questions now. The part where I sort of say things at you is finished. Now we're having a conversation. Okay, so the longest stream I did was English for Success, and it was 2 hours and 21 minutes. And today's stream is 2 hours and 32 minutes. Oh, I've done it. I don't want to go too long, because if I do go too long, and then I decide to do another one that's super long, then I'll have to go even longer. So I think we're going to wrap up, unless anyone's got any critical comments. Somebody answer me. Is he what? Are you a literary enthusiast? Or is it that you teach English only? No, I'm a massive enthusiast, meow meow. I'm an enthusiast about loads of stuff. That's why people come here. That's why people like this channel, because we talk about loads of stuff, not just English. Right? Listen to these. Let me show you the topics that we've done recently, okay? So today, how to not be depressed. Last time, tea time, British etiquette. The road to war, 1939. Building habits. I did a whole series on making habits and quitting bad habits. We did 5 streams on that. Before that, we did setting goals. We did critical thinking skills, tips for public speaking, inspirational vocabulary. We talked about linguistic drift, which is how languages naturally evolve and change. We talked about politeness. We talked about fluency. We talked about Mr. Men, which was a fun little story. We talked about adjectives to describe people. We talked about pirates. If you look down the list of streams, there's a stream called Secret Topic, and that one is about pirates. Do you remember that? It was a story about pirates, really fun. We talked about a hotel in space. We talked about adverb-adjective combinations. We talked about a story in English, how to make suggestions. We talked about ChatGPT. We talk about everything. We like to talk about all kinds of stuff. That's what we do. The method. Let me blow my own bloody trumpet for a bit. I love talking about this. I love talking about how I teach English. Okay, and I love talking about the methods that I use. We could say it's methodology, but that would be a misuse of the word methodology. So we're going to say Prof. Rich methods. Okay. So there's a number of methods which I employ. CLIL. CLIL is content, language, integrated learning. Now, the idea of CLIL is you learn about something like history, and because we're using English to learn that topic, then learning history becomes the motivation, and the vehicle through which you learn the topic is language, English. So it's kind of like it's like, what do you call it? You kill two birds with one stone. You learn history and you learn English. So that's content, language, integrated learning. So I do a lot of that. On top of that, I use the lexical approach. Lexical approach means that I favor functional language and phrases rather than word-to-word grammar structures. And the reason for that is I believe they are better for fluency and active vocabulary production. Although people can argue that grammar is useful for flexibility, and I agree, it is, I think if you only learn grammar and you don't learn flexible phrasal language, then your fluency suffers, which is why I teach with the lexical approach over grammar-based approach. Then I employ task-based learning. We don't do that a lot, but I love it, and we do it sometimes. So the basics of task-based learning is do a task, learn some language useful for that task, and then do the task again. And the interesting thing about task-based learning is that you do the task first. For example, the task today was giving advice, right? Giving advice to someone with a problem. So in task-based learning, we start with me saying, give advice to this person. And you try to give advice, blah, blah, blah. Then we look at the language and we say, you could use this, you could use this, you could use this. And the interesting thing about that is because you did the task, you realize how useful that language is. Because you're like, I tried to say that before and now I know how. And then you do the task again. And this time you have the opportunity to naturally use the language. That's task-based learning. And then finally, we've got dialogic storytelling, which I probably do about 1 in every 10 streams. I do dialogic storytelling. So dialogic storytelling is when I say, okay, today I'm going to tell you a story. It's a story about something weird that I saw outside my house. And it was really weird. It made me think. So before I tell you this story about the weird thing outside my house, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever seen anything weird outside your house? Answers in the chat. Have you ever seen anything weird outside your house? And then we discuss the weird things you've seen outside your house. And then we go through the story. And basically we have bit of the story, discussion, bit of the story, discussion, bit of the story, discussion. I absolutely love dialogic storytelling. I think it's so fun and so motivational. It just takes quite a lot of planning to do it productively. So I do about 1 in every 10. We do a dialogic story. So that's it. That's what I use mainly on the channel. And that's what makes us unique here. Because I haven't seen anyone else doing this on YouTube. I've seen people do this. I've seen dialogic storytelling. I've seen a little bit of task-based learning, but not a lot of lexical approach, a little bit, and not a lot of CLIL. You can find loads of grammar-based, and you can find loads of presentation practice. So that's, I present you with some grammar, then we practice. I present you with some grammar, then we practice. There's loads of that on YouTube. That's why I don't do it very much, because it's already there. What's the point in me doing it? There's loads of videos like that already. If you want grammar presentation plus practice, you have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of options already. And anyway, that's how I've ended up in this niche. All right. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Meow Meow. That's very nice. I'm not I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet that much. I think one of the main things is it's just the niche that I fell into. It's not like I'm such an intelligent genius that I worked out that this is the way of doing things. People taught me this. All of these things have been taught to me, right? I've had great teachers before me. I've had great trainers. You know, I've been steered in the right direction, and it's just naturally a slot that I go to because a lot of people just jump into the grammar world, and I'm naturally someone who's going to go a little bit against the grain anyway, so it works out quite well for me. But there's nothing to do with standard ovation. It's just, it is what it is, and other people do other ways effectively, and they're useful. Anyway, we are going to move. We're going to wrap up because I'm starting to go crazy. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you, Domenico, as well. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. It's been my pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, join our community, because our community is super, super awesome. It was a bit dead this week, though. What happened? Did you notice that? Monday, Tuesday, there was like nobody around. I found it a bit weird because I got used to going on there and seeing people talking. You know, so then you kind of go there and you're like, whoa, where is everyone? It was a bit weird. But anyway, check it out. Check out our community. It's super cool. And I'll catch you next time. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely Thursday tomorrow. Have a lovely Thursday tomorrow and Friday and Saturday and all the rest of it. See you on Saturday. Bye-bye now.